little bit of a slow start with obviously the postponement due to the government shutdown earlier, but we're pleased you all made it today. And I know we have for those of you that drove, you probably had a rough time getting around the roadblocks for next door, so pleased everybody made it. As we always come to this conference, and Alice reminded me this morning, Alice Lippert, that this is the 19th year that we've done this together in partnership, and that we have with the Office of Electricity Delivery and Energy Reliability and the Energy Information Administration. And from a state perspective, it's always an incredibly important event. It highlights how important data is, energy data, forecasting, and analysis, particularly that EIA undertakes, but also many of our private sector partners. It's obviously important in the context of winter heating, winter fuels, which was how this conference originally started. The focus is certainly broader now, but it's also important because so many of the energy offices now do statewide energy planning from a policy perspective for their governors and their legislatures. NASIO has done a lot of work in this area. We have almost 40 states engaged in statewide energy planning now on a regular basis every 2 to 4 years that really underpin a lot of policy and investment that occurs. And so I think this conference really highlights the importance of that. First, I want to thank, again, our partners, the Office of Electricity Delivery and Energy Reliability, OE as we often refer to them, and in particular the work of Bill Ortiz, who's here, I'll introduce in a moment, and Alice Lippert and Assistant Secretary Pat Hoffman, who we've worked with for a number of years, and also the U.S. Energy Information Administration, who makes so much of what we do in this space possible with their analytical work. And we'll hear from Administrator Szyminski later this morning, but appreciate their partnership in making this event happen and all the help that they give the states over the course of the year. I think to get us a little bit back on schedule, I'm going to stop there and make it brief. I would like to first introduce David Ortiz, who is the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Energy Infrastructure Modeling and Analysis at OE. And thank you for coming this morning, David, and please join me in welcoming. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I appreciate the introduction. Good morning. Let me welcome you to the 2013-2014 Winter Energy Outlook Conference. Before I begin, let me also give some thanks. I want to thank NASIO for their co-sponsorship with the Department of Energy and the Energy Information Administration. I want to thank the hard work of you, David, as well as Shamika Spencer in putting this together, and it's also within the rescheduling of the whole event that occurred, unfortunately. I also want to thank the Energy Information Administration, Adam Szyminski and his staff for the continuing support of the conference, but also their hard work and public service as well in providing such great data analysis to support energy work in the nation. Lastly, I also want to thank the staff of the Office of Electricity Delivery and Energy Reliability, especially Alice Lippert, my mentor over in the office, for her leadership in putting together this event for so many years. This is 19 years of tradition in which NASIO, the Energy Information Administration, and the department have come together to discuss trends and interdependencies that affect fuel supplies, markets, and consumers. The motivation for this conference is to provide you all with insight regarding how the winter season could affect energy supplies, prices, and other effects on the economy. Growing up in New England, I would look outside when a blizzard would come, and I'd be really excited for the couple of days home from school to really go out and play with my friends. But our friends and neighbors were often really quite worried that if there were enough oil in the tank to keep them warm for the next few days. Whereas once we just worried about preventing the oil company from getting their trucks down the road, now we have to acknowledge that our energy systems are more tightly integrated and interdependent. Today, if the power is out, for example, your boiler or furnace simply just won't start. I want to take a few minutes to share with you how the Office of Electricity Delivery and Energy Reliability helps to improve the resilience and reliability of our interconnected energy systems. This conference is a forum for bringing together key energy officials, policy and decision makers, and sharing information about the upcoming heating season. Part of the reason for you being here is to be able to discuss these interdependencies and to get insight into how all of our energy systems are affected. This is, of course, a very timely conference. This is the 1-year anniversary of Superstorm Sandy striking the East Coast. Thankfully, this year's hurricane season has been particularly mild, but the scale of Sandy and the disaster that it caused is hard to overstate. 500 miles in diameter, Sandy affected every state along the East Coast and motivated evacuations even as far west as waterfront property in Wisconsin. In the wake of the storm, pipelines, terminals, and refineries were shut down, with many experiencing flood damage as well as other damage from the storm. New storm surge records were recorded in New York, Philadelphia, and other cities, and the storm caused 20-foot waves in Lake Michigan. There were shortages of gasoline, if you recall, and long lines at gasoline stations. Worse yet, Sandy, just like Hurricane Irene, was followed almost immediately by a classic nor'easter. The result was that 8.7 million customers were without power, 2 more million than Irene. Many didn't have reliable electric power service for weeks and months. Estimates of damage from the storm are greater than $60 billion. Looking forward, the effects of climate change on extreme weather remain fundamentally uncertain. So while no projection of that will be given here, we really don't know what the future is going to bring. The Department of Energy has taken to heart the lessons learned from this event and others, and have been increasing its activities supporting energy resilience. With federal agencies, state and local governments, and industrial partners, these activities are carried out. For example, we help to develop, implement, and keep up-to-date energy assurance plans and emergency response plans. This is one of the areas of activity of Alice Lippert, and in collaboration with NASIO in the States. These important activities take an all-hazards approach to identify risks, implement robust plans for guaranteeing that essential energy needs are met. We also help to identify interdependencies among energy systems and other infrastructures, including electricity, natural gas, water, and share these results with first responders, states, and communities to help them in their response planning and activities. These activities help to mitigate downstream effects from disruptions to single and multiple sectors. We help to ensure that investments made when recovering from disasters enhance the resilience of energy systems. I'll provide a couple examples in just a moment. And we facilitate federal and state cooperation to improve electrical grid modernization and expansion. We are focused on building stronger communities and a stronger grid. The Office of Electricity Delivery and Energy Reliability directs research and development supporting grid modernization and implements the Smart Grid investment grants, which are already showing benefits in this area. For example, smart grid investments made possible by the Recovery Act and investments by utility partners in them as well provide essential information now that allow utilities to respond better to outages, making restoration activities far more efficient than they were in the past. We provide technical assistance to states and communities to ensure that investments in energy systems provide resilience. For example, in August, the department partnered with New Jersey Transit and New Jersey Board of Public Utilities to develop a microgrid to improve resilience of New Jersey Transit's energy supplies. We also identify best practices to help mitigate future impacts to the liquid fuel supply chain experienced during Sandy and other storms and events by being in constant contact with industry. This year marks the 40th anniversary of the OPEC oil embargo, to talk about other risks to the system. But because of advances in technology, some supported initially by the Department of Energy's research programs and innovation throughout the energy sector, oil and gas resources from shales have changed the energy landscape. For example, as a result, the U.S. produced 60% of its petroleum that it consumed in 2012. This is something that has been obviously talked about quite a bit, and I don't need to elaborate more on here. But from the perspective of this conference, the increased supplies and diverse locations of these resources, in contrast to where we had been developing them before, has motivated significant shifts in energy infrastructures. These shifts from coal-fired to natural gas electricity generation are particularly noted, as well as some of the changes in the delivery of supplies. For example, light crude oil produced in North Dakota produced over 900,000 barrels per day of light crude from shale in August. But because of the limited pipeline capacity in that area, much of that production moves by rail as opposed to pipeline, as it traditionally would have been. In the natural gas area, the production from the Marcellus Shale in Pennsylvania has motivated significant changes in the pipeline infrastructure in that state. To summarize, our energy systems are ever more interconnected. The need to understand and plan for the interdependencies is ever more important. The department takes an all-hazards approach to counter threats from extreme weather. natural disasters, physical, and also cyber attacks, which is an area of particular focus within our office. The Department of Energy and our partners across the country are advancing technology and best practices to modernize our energy systems and how we operate them. So I look forward to a rich and exciting day, looking for the great presentations and also your active participation throughout the day in this 2013-2014 Winter Energy Outlook Conference. Appreciate your attention and thank you very much.
Next, I want to introduce our other partner in energy assurance and planning in this conference from the Energy Information Administration, Doug McIntyre. Please join me in welcoming Doug.
As the Director of the Office of Petroleum Biofuel Statistics at the U.S. Energy Information Administration, I'm proud that EIA is once again a co-sponsor of this wonderful event. I think we have an excellent agenda. I want to thank our colleagues at the Office of Electricity Delivery and Energy Reliability and the National Association of State Energy Officials for putting such a great agenda together. Excellent topics, some familiar, some new. I'm looking really forward to a wonderful day. I think we're going to learn a lot. And once again, just want to welcome everyone to this event and thank you for finding your way through roadblocks, wind, rain, and shutdowns to make it here today. Thank you.